All righty. Let's see what we're going to do with this bang over here. Okay. Let me drop my time on here. Okay. You will need note-taking materials today. Note-taking materials. We will not be reviewing anything on the website, so all you need is physical or virtual note-taking materials. That being said, let's go ahead and get these cleansing breaths in, ladies and gentlemen. 3 inhales, 3 exhales. Well, inhale and exhale. 3 deep breaths on your own. Let's go. I am Dr. Donna Louise Thomas Rogers, daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Good morning, Jessica. All right, today's topic is neuroplasticity. Say that 5 times fast. Neuroplasticity, 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 neuroplasticity. Okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought. All right. Why are we discussing neuroplasticity, Dr. Donna? Because I said so. No, because in order for you to be able to use the 74 principles of real leadership, learn them, use them, apply them on a daily basis, you need to understand how this amazing organ, your brain, works day in and day out. 2 days ago, we talked about neurogenesis, and that's the creation of new neurons in your amazing brain. We talked about 3 different types of neurons: sensory, motor, and interneurons. We also talked about the neurotransmitters that actually, when you have an axon, they meet and they transfer the neurotransmitters to the dendrite tree. Now you have this thing. If there's enough going on, an excitable synapses, boom, you have what's called a spike. And now there's the creation of these neural pathways. And that is what you use in your mind to communicate. So right now, thousands of neural pathways are just firing off for me to be able to do this and talk and breathe and have activities of my limbs and everything else. And then we talked about a daily neurogenesis checklist that you can use in order for you to start creating that new neurons, because scientists believed many moons ago that you had a fixed mindset and what you got was what you got and you didn't get anything else. But science has proven that that is no longer true. And as a result, you have the ability to wire your brain. You have the ability to prune neural pathways that you don't want to use anymore, i.e. unaccountable, bad, toxic, poor behaviors. And then you have the ability to create these new behaviors. Now, for people saying, no, Dr. Donna, that shit ain't true. You can't wire your brain. That's not real. Okay, cool. So when you went to kindergarten, if you live in America, your first time going to school, good morning, Regina, you had some information. Now, do you have more information today than you did when you were in kindergarten? Yeah, you do. I hope you do. When you graduated from high school, do you have more information now than when you were in high school? Yeah. So how'd you get that information if your mindset is fixed? Where'd it come from? Where'd it come from? How'd you do it? If you can't create new neural pathways, then how did you know how to not ride a bike, had a big wheel, had a one wheel, and now you went maybe to a skateboard, tricycle, bicycle, motorcycle. Now there are people who can drive 18-wheeler tractor trailers. I've never seen a 5-year-old drive an 18-wheeler tractor trailer. Little feet can't reach the doggone pedals or the gear shift. So if you learned all of those things, you didn't learn how to be a parent. If you're a parent, you didn't already know how to be a spouse. You had to learn how to do those things. And every job that you ever had, every business that you ever had, everything that you didn't know how to tie your shoes, put your clothes on, iron. For those of you who still iron, good morning, Jasmine. And so, yes, your brain can be wired to do new things. Isn't that amazing how unaccountable people will have you thinking you can't learn anything else? But you learned how to do all the things that you already know how to do. That's why neuroplasticity is real, neurogenesis is real, and new neurons are real. Okay, with that being said, what is the definition of neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is also known as just plasticity, and it is the brain's ability to change, adapt, and reorganize itself throughout life in response to experiences, learning, environment, and even injury. I'm going to say that again. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability, and it's also referred to as plasticity, but it's the brain's ability to change. So going from kindergarten to middle school to high school to your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s, you have to change. You have to adapt and reorganize itself throughout life in response to experiences, learning environment, and even injury. So that is why you know you are where you are because of neuroplasticity. Now, you might not have known this years ago, but now you know. So it feels like, oh, I moved to a new environment. So I used to live in cold ass Michigan and had to go back for a minute. But after I had the ability to leave, I've never lived somewhere cold on purpose ever again. I lived in Kentucky, Tennessee, lived in Tennessee, worked in Kentucky because of Fort Campbell, lived in Alabama, lived in Florida, lived in South Korea, and I have lived here in Las Vegas for 14 and a half years because I learned from that experience that my brain is wired for hot. It's wired for sunshine. Sunshine 330 days out the year. Florida, sunshine state. Definitely not trying to be in those environments, but I learned that I don't like cold weather. My brain said, no brain freezes over here. We need to be in warm weather. But everything else that I have experienced, it has been through neuroplasticity. So if you just think about your life, look around the environment that you're in now, and just think about how many years ago you may have not been in that environment, or how much you've learned and experienced in the time and thousands and thousands and thousands upon days that you have been here. Now you know that you have the ability to change that. You actually have the ability. Now, your stuck Malay and your stens will tell you you can't change the environment. We from the east side, and this is where we are. And Virginia is in New York right now. Boogie down Bronx, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, baby, do or die. This is my hood, 313, baby, I'm representing. No, you don't have to, just because you are there, doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And if you like it and it's working, then stay where you are. But you don't have to stay there up here, regardless of where you are. So your brain is plastic. You have been experiencing neuroplasticity your entire life, but now you get to do it on purpose. You get to understand that you're doing it on purpose. And we know I tell you don't do anything without a strategy. So now that you know that your brain is malleable and plastic and it can go wherever you want it to go, the neural pathways can. Now you can be strategic about what you think, how you think, where you learn, how you learn, what you experience, and why you experience it. You have the ability to do that 1000% on a scale of 1 to 2 on purpose. All right, so here are some key aspects of neuroplasticity. Number 1, there is structural plasticity, and that's the changes in the physical structure of the brain, such as forming new connections between neurons. That process is known as synapses. Okay? Changes in the physical structure of the brain, such as forming new connections between neurons, which is synapses. If you do not have synapses, you don't have those neurons firing off, then you are not creating connectivity and it's not going to work. And as I am studying my amazing neuroscience class that I'm loving so much, I promise you, whoo, yes. So anyway, you have excitatory and you have inhibitories. And so the excitatories, again, tell you, hey, this is something you want to do. And the inhibitory is saying, hey, that's something you need to stop. So when those connections fire off and you get what's called a strike, next thing you know, you're going to have that connection and something is going to take place. Number 2 is functional plasticity. Functional plasticity. And this is the brain's ability to shift functions from damaged areas to undamaged ones. And so often seen in stroke patients or people with brain injuries. So I mentioned this before, and I've said this several times, that stroke patients are able to rewire their brain so that the part of the brain that is damaged, the motor cortexes that are stopping the movement, they can do workarounds and basically detours in order for them to create new connections and get the mobility back into those areas. So you can change the functionality of the brain through neuroplasticity. I was about to say neuropability. I'm so used to saying that. And then number 3, you can experience dependent plasticity. And this experience dependent plasticity, this is the brain's changes based on learning, memory, skill development, and repetitive practice. learning, memory, and skill development based upon repetitive practice. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, because they changed the alphabet song in schools. Anyway, everything that you say that you repeat over and over and over and over and over and over and over again is going to come from that. So if you have a bad habit and you keep repeating it over and over and over again, then you're going to keep having that bad habit because the brain is wired with that plasticity. Okay, so everyday examples of the three of these. One moment, ladies and gentlemen. We have an asshole in our midst. To wander away, you can leave on purpose or you could be escorted out. And I hope you are a man, because I don't even know as a woman how you could fix your motherfucking thumbs or index fingers to type some bullshit like that. So I hope you have a penis saying some dumb shit like that. If you want a fucking reaction, you're going to get one this motherfucking morning. You got one. Was this the reaction that you were looking for? I'll be your pusher, man. I'll give you some dopamine this motherfucking morning. I sure will. You want this? Because we got every opportunity. I got some time this morning. Disrupting my life for some bullshit. You are an imbecile. You probably haven't heard that. If we were in school back in the 50s, I would put the dunce cap on your dumb ass. Did you get the reaction? You still here? Check 1 2 1 2. You still in the building? Didn't go like you thought, did it? Okay. As I was saying, everyday examples. So for structural plasticity, learning how to use the 74 principles of real leadership and applying them throughout your day strengthens new neural pathways. Learning how to use the 74 principles of real leadership and applying them throughout your day strengthens your neural pathways. So that is the structural plasticity of learning them and then applying them. Now, from a functional plasticity perspective, recovery from a stroke can involve other brain regions taking over lost function. So that is what you use the functional plasticity for. Your brain was injured, it has some type of trauma you might have had, even with concussions with football players and things like that. You have the ability to create new neural pathways or alternative uses of other portions or regions of the brain. And then experience dependent plasticity. So what happens here is you rewire patterns associated with unaccountable behaviors. So using the theory of personal accountability and neuropability, which we will get into later this week, and also pruning the neural pathways associated with trauma, anxiety, and fear. So initially when I was researching this, that's what I think I was on ChatGPT this morning. And so they want you to focus on the fear and the bad trauma and the bad experiences and things like that. But that's not the purpose of neuropability. And so I caught myself this morning saying, that's general information. So how do you take this generic information and apply it to personal accountability? So I'll say it like this. If you go into Lowe's and you get a hammer and you ask the Lowe's associates, I like Lowe's better than Home Depot. They're much more helpful here. And they will tell you, okay, these are the ways that you can use a hammer. And they can use traditional methods for using a hammer, and that's generic. But you may need to use the hammer because you are hitting dowels in on the headboard of a hemness bed, or Noah will correct me. I forgot the name of it, but it has the plastic ones at the top. And so you need to hit it with that. But then you might need a rubber mallet because it's wood and you don't want to break the wood. So some people use rubber mallets on the hood for certain in the hood for certain reasons, and sometimes you use it for the right reason. But it's just a tool. So knowing the experience-dependent plasticity, you get to use it how you see fit. And so in this instance, for the purposes of this learning and this live, is that you're rewiring patterns associated with unaccountable behavior. So instead of saying, oh my goodness, I had trauma, like myself, I've been to SA 26 times, I can wire my brain differently from that and say, okay, let me go over to somewhere else and recover from that. But I'm saying use it for, let's say you're a smoker and now you need to stop smoking. So you're going to rewire your brain and say, nope, I'm not going to smoke. I'm going to go ahead and be personally accountable and I'm going to go exercise. So same tool, different reason for wiring it differently. So it is dependent. And so you want to prune all of that trauma, anxiety, and fear, and then you want to replace it with things that will work best for you. And for us and the purposes here, you want to use the 74 principles day in and day out. Now, why does neuroplasticity matter? I'm glad you asked that question, Regina, because neuroplasticity proves that the brain is not fixed. The brain is not fixed. And we thought that many, many moons ago. This is it. You got what you got. You stupid, you're smart, you're brilliant, you're in the middle, and here you go. Now, can't learn anything else. And people, unaccountable people like that. I'm just set in my way. This is just how I am. I was born this way. This is what it is. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Okay. But actually you can. You 1000% can. And what it does is you can build on new habits, recover abilities, and improve memory and adapt at any age. So this whole notion that you especially when computers came and older people hadn't been exposed to computers and they were just like, I just can't learn this. I can't learn this. And then one day, many years ago, we were in the library closest to our home, and they had a class for senior citizens to learn how to use Facebook so they could see the grandbabies. And so they literally, because we live by a senior community too. So you have all these boomers walking in and these silent generations coming to the library so with their readers on and everything, because they had decided, no, I'm going to see these grandbabies. I'm waiting for the pictures to come in the mail. You actually have the ability to go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and you can actually improve your memory. We know that the working memory in the hippocampus deteriorates over time. If you don't use it, you lose it, and you can't have recall from it. That's why it's so important to learn something every day, because you are exercising the hippocampus and the working memory so that it is constantly being able to recall that information instantaneously till you sitting there for 4 hours like, now what was I about to do? Now what happened on that day? It's there for you instantaneously. So that is why it matters. Now, creating new neural pathways. Oh, so one second. Before I move on, what questions do you have about neuroplasticity, the aspects of it, and the everyday uses of it before we move on? If it's clear as a bell, type clear. If it's clear as mud, type mud. I don't even know if there is a mud emoji, but I'm gonna have to, this is driving me bonkers. I don't think I put my hair on correct today. You don't hear that often. It was so funny. Is that sometimes we come home for a break in between appointments and we'll be getting ready to go. And I'm like, where's my hair? Like, never thought I'd be saying that. Where's my wig? What happened to it? Where did I put my wig at? Oh, it's on the table. I got it. Hold up. Let me put it on. We got to go. So that's quite funny. All right. Oh, the two types of synapses are excitatory and inhibitory. So excited, like, woo, I'm excited. And then inhibitory, inhibitory, and excitatory. So one is saying, do this, do this, do this. That's the excitatory. And then the inhibitory is saying, stop that, stop that, stop that. And I think it's great because inside of the executive function, you have the working memory, cognitive flexibility, as well as inhibition control. So inhibition control is don't do something or say something that you're going to regret. And the executive function is located in the frontal lobe. And let me know if you have that, Regina. And for the visitors, I'm I have 50 shades of trolldom, and I call it trolls, unaccountable people. So if you are new to this, sometimes I just remove the unaccountable people. Sometimes I let them stay the entire time. Sometimes, as a former stand-up comic, I may address the hecklers. And so if any of that affects you, you probably want to move on to someone else's live, because that's what I'm going to do. I will address the unaccountables in the manner in which I see fit in the given time. So if that offends you or bothers you, you are in the wrong live. And it's okay. You can exit and feel free not to come back. And I'm cool with that. Okay, so the synapses they communicate with, the cells in the membrane, the neurons. And so what happens is you have an excitatory synapses. And so it's a dendrite over here. They meet right here, and then there's a transference of a neurotransmitter, some dopamine. Let's just say that. So that's excitatory. So now they meet with each other. There is a transference of neurotransmitters, and on the other end, there is an action. Okay, so they're connecting together, and as a result, that's how you get neural pathways. So you will never get a new neural pathway if you don't create the synaptic process. So sometimes the synapses are excitatory, and so the response will be, we're going to meet the process. You go through the process, there's going to be a spike and something will occur. You might laugh, ha, 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 ha. And if it is an inhibitory, then you're going to not do that behavior. So you might want to slap the shit out of somebody, but you're not going to, because the synapse said, don't do that action. Smoke crack, don't do that action. Have peace, do that action. So let me know if that makes sense. So the synapses is how you create the neural pathways. That connection is the pathway. Good morning, Lola. So they're communicating with each other inside of different portions of the brain. So you have an axon and a dendrite inside of a cell membrane. Yes, and it's electrical charge. It is. That's why it's a strike. That's why they say the neurons are firing off. And now it's this electrical connection. Sort of like if you plug something in the wall and then take it back out. That's the way I can describe it. Okay, so now creating new neural pathways. Creating new neural pathways is a key part of neuroplasticity, and it involves multiple brain regions, multiple lobes, and it depends on the type of learning or experience. So in the prefrontal cortex, which is located up here, you have the frontal lobe, and inside of this portion of the brain, the function of it is the planning, decision-making, goal setting, attention, and things of that nature, everything that happens in the frontal lobe. Now, the role of neuroplasticity up here is that it directs the focus and attention, which are essential for framing new neural pathways. So it is getting you focused and ready to go so that you will do it on purpose. You will not do it on purpose. So you will not be sitting here. If you ever found yourself sitting somewhere saying, how did I get here? It wasn't because you had a strategy. You did not consciously create that neural pathway. Now, it did get created, but it's not something that you did on purpose. And so again, the purpose of today is for you to understand that you have the ability to basically wire your brain to do what you want it to do instead of doing what it has been programmed to do thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So you can now tell yourself, yeah, I'm not doing that. I want to do this instead. So instead of going to the club, I'm using young examples. Instead of going to the club, you go to the library. Instead of going to a party, you decide that you're going to go to the museum, and you keep doing it. And so if you keep going to the club, you're going to keep going to the club. If you keep going to the library, you're going to keep going to the library, and you will get a result with both of those actions. But now you can be strategic about what it is that you're doing. Number 2 is the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is located here in the temporal lobe with the thalamus and the amygdala, and it's inside of the limbic system. And so the function of the hippocampus is your learning and your memory function. So that's where your long-term memory is stored as well. So it works with the working memory to store information that you can gather. Again, if you put something in your hippocampus and you don't use it, the hippocampus will replace it with memories and skills and everything that you use more frequently. So if you used to know how to play the piano and you don't, and then you take up lacrosse, it's going to start giving you all of your lacrosse skills, and then you have to really sit there for a minute, and you can bring it back because that neural pathway is improved, but it's not readily accessible. And then if you stop using it completely, it dumps it and says, give me new information. So the function of the hippocampus is learning and memory formation, and the role of neuroplasticity is that it helps encode and consolidate new experiences into long-term memories. So you can have a new experience. You can, if you don't know, ask is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And if you keep asking questions, then the hippocampus will say, okay, I know how to ask questions. So when it's time to ask a question, who, what, why, when, where, how, who, what, why, where, when, and how, then it will say, oh, we're asking a question. I remember how to do that. Let me ask a question. Send that information on over to the working memory, and the working memory is like, okay, I need some information. How do I get this done? Boom, got the information, and then it will go back, process it, and do what it needs to do. Okay, and then the cerebellum. So see that? I got my cerebellum right here, and it's located above the brainstem, but under the lower part of the brain, under the temporal lobe. And so what the cerebellum does is it is the coordination and learning. And the role that the neuroplasticity plays in this is it builds your motor skills, like playing the piano, riding a bike, typing on a computer, anything that you're doing motorly, it gives you those skills and the ability to do that. So in my case, I had to I'm using all kind of stuff for my neuroscience class, and I need my fine motor skills to be able to look at my tablet, right. I got like 15, probably 8 different kinds of pens, highlighters, and everything, but I need the mobility. I got to press pause and go back and roll and all of that. So it's all of this functionality from a skill set perspective to be able to get the information I need to give it to you. Number 4 is the basal ganglia, and the spelling of that is BASAGANGLIA. Ganglia is one word. Basal is the first word. So the basal ganglia, and it's located in the temporal lobe, and it's really over on top of the thalamus. So the function of it is to habit formation and procedural learning. So that's where your habits are formed. Good, bad, right, wrong, and different. Your habits are formed there, and your procedural learning. So any standing operating procedures are where that actually takes place. So if you have to go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, anytime you're doing safety, if you've had a job, one of my first jobs was working at McDonald's, how you make the Big Macs and all of those things, how you make the pancakes, all of that takes place. That's the procedural learning. And what happens is the role in neuroplasticity is that it automates repeated behaviors and routines. So it's automatic. So when I wake up in the morning, I wake up at 3 o'clock now, it's automatic. I get to do my notes, it's automatic. It's like driving, automatic. You learned how to do it, and now it's a habit that's there. And that's why it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, because it's automatic. So if you're trying to stop smoking and you wake up in the morning and do this, you gotta go, uh-oh, and this is what I always do. So let me do something different. When I gave up caffeine and added sugar for the first maybe month afterwards, once I got through detox, I could walk down the aisle of the candy section of the store, my mouth would just start watering, because it's like, you supposed to be picking up Snickers or something. You gotta, how you just gonna walk past all these donuts and everything else? The bakery section of the grocery store is trying to take me out, but it was an automatic behavior that I was just accustomed to, because I used to go get 7-Eleven coffee and some of those powdered donuts every time we stopped to get gas or anything, and I haven't been inside of a 7-Eleven in 2 years now, because I don't have any reason to go in there, because really about 18 months, because I don't have a reason to go in there, because I don't have the snacks anymore. So that habit formed behavior is no longer there. And then number 5 is sensory and motor cortices. And so the function of this is processing sensory input and controlling movement. So this goes along with the cerebellum. So you're processing things that you touch and your movements. So the role of neuroplasticity is that it rewires the responses to injury and sensory changes like learning Braille and recovery from a stroke, but also just the things that you touch and everything that you do. So you are learning, because one thing that was hard for me to do as a person who learned how to type on a typewriter was to be able to use the touch screens and things like that, because I was so used to hearing the keys click, 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 that now I'm like, what is this? And so it helps the wiring with that process as well. And then the bonus, again, as we talked about on Sunday, because today is Tuesday. So on Sunday is the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And so this is that growth protein that supports the development of new neurons and synapses. That's where we talked about eating the chocolate and the blackberries. And the purpose of it is that it boosts your exercise, your sleep, your learning, and your meditation. So it is basically the fertilizer for you to be able to have this neuroplastic brain environment. So what questions do you have about creating new neural pathways? So it happens in the prefrontal cortex up here in the frontal lobe area. It happens in the hippocampus, which is located in the temporal lobe. It happens down here in the cerebellum, which is underneath the temporal lobe, right above the brainstem. It happens in the basal ganglia, which is also located in the temporal lobe for habit formation. It's the sensory and motor cortices, and so it happens there. And then it is the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Now I see why everybody calls it BDNF, and that's basically where the fertilizer and everything, the foundation for your amazing brain to start wiring itself. So is that clear as a bell, clear as mud? What questions do you have? And I said we weren't going to go to the website, but now I'm saying we're going to need to go there for this part, but I wasn't. I don't know, some of this might seem like it's not, it is clear. Or like, how are you going to process it? Again, it's foundational, and the more we use it and refer back to it, you will understand why this was necessary. Because without this, I show you how to use it, you're not going to be able to connect why this is important to the whole process. So before I get into the brain exercises and the practices to strengthen the neural pathways, if you go access a second device if you don't have one near you, because we're going to go to the website, my website, turnarounddoctor.com. So I won't give you time to go and grab your device. Gather it. Okay. And then while you're doing that, so when I got to this portion, and I've had conversations with Nola about this as well, I'm so used to teaching everybody else's everything that having mine be the only thing that I teach is foreign to my brain. I don't have the neural pathways for it yet. I am developing it, but it's like all of my ideas were presented in someone else's organization. So yes, I did the gotcha cards, dollar days, all kind of things while I was in corporate America in the military, and even helping other organizations and businesses. So my natural inclination is to think I got to present some other information. I'm now working to only present my information, which is struggle, because as an ex, we are definitely programmed to go and do other people's shit. Even if it's our own business, we're told to compare ourselves, do benchmarking, look at your competitor, offer it at the same offering, but you just make it blue instead of purple, and that's it. So the concept and the idea that I'm only talking about my thing, which is this bigger thing, because you could be a niche person and say, I'm going to teach you financial literacy. This is our method of financial literacy, but financial literacy is still a whole industry. And so I'm basically creating an industry, a theory, and practical application all at the same time. So as this is happening in real time, my brain is like, so you just go make that. So the generic examples that were given to me this morning for your brain exercises and strength, I almost started writing them down, and I said, no, this is for the principles of world leadership. This is for the theory of personal accountability and neuropability. So you are buying a hammer. You are not going to DIY a cabinet. That's not what you're buying the hammer for. You need neuroplasticity. You don't need the exercises for creating new neural pathways. You already have your DIY project. It's called personal accountability and theory of personal accountability and neuropability, if that makes sense. So I've been programmed to use exactly what they've said. The people that I watch, that Nola has banned me from sharing anymore. I can't send her anything. I can't tell her anything that I'm seeing. She banned me yesterday. She doesn't want to hear it. If it's not coming from me, she does not want to hear it. So, Kevin, you're getting all their videos. No, I'm just kidding. I'm done. Anyway, no more. Can I ask you to do something? Stop sending me. Okay, got it. Write it down. Won't send you nobody else's stuff. Nobody else's nothing. So that has been, it's specifically to thought leaders. Okay. So no more thought leaders. I can't send her anything on a thought leader. Okay. So the point that I'm making is now everything is 74 principles of real leadership, the theory of personal accountability, and neuropability. Because before, and it's coming to me now, in order, I used to have to prove my credibility, especially when I was in corporate America in the military. It's like, well, yeah, but do you know such and such and such and such? And when William Westmoreland was, so it's this whole notion that I got to attach myself to this other thing. That's what research, especially when you get to advanced degrees, you have to say, I did all this research and now I'm contributing to this specific topic here. Here's how what they did. I'm either improving it or disproving it. And so that's what my brain is wired to do. And I don't have to do any of those things anymore. So going forward, I take the hammer, I take the nails, and I build what I want to build. I don't have to build what I was told to build anymore. So with that being said, here are the brain exercises and practices to strengthen your neural pathways. So if you are on the website or get to it, theturnarounddoctor.com, and then you want to go to the 74 Principles of Real Leadership tab. And when you are there, just give me a thumbs up. Got it. I'm here. There we go. Roger that. So I did go get some walnuts. Got me my omega-3s. I don't really like walnuts because my grandmother used to give us a bag of nuts for Christmas every year. She used to give us walnuts and some other ones. There was always, and people that are older, remember they used to have those bag of nuts in that little mesh bag. She gave us those every year. Never gave us a nutcracker, so it was always hard. We were in the hood, so we used to have to use a hammer to crack our nuts. I don't know why we didn't have a nutcracker. But anyway, they knew it was coming. Just some things just didn't make sense. Okay, so when I read the walnuts, I was like, ugh. First thing I thought about was my childhood. However, I could get through anything if it's for health purposes. So I went to Sprouts yesterday and got some walnuts. All right, so the 74 Principles of Real Leadership. We're talking about brain exercises or practices to strengthen your neural pathways for neuropability, which is your brain's ability to wire itself to use the 74 Principles of Real Leadership to create unlimited neural pathways in your amazing brain. The whole purpose of personal accountability and the 74 Principles of Real Leadership is for you to access best. That's the whole purpose. If you start talking to people and they're like, what is she talking about? What does she do? It's for you to become your best, not best defined by somebody else, but your own definition of best. So everything you do is your best. And in order to do that, you need to have the neural pathways of best. That's the difference. What makes you different? That's how I'm different. Is best every day. Your best breakfast, your best outfit, your best presentation, your best nap, your best relaxed vacation, your best in everything that you do every single day. you need the neural pathways in order for that to happen, because there are 6.8 billion adults in the world becoming more and more unaccountable by the nanosecond, and they operate at 70%. C's get degrees. So it's average, lackluster, mundane, mediocre, because they live in a hijacked amygdala state right here in the temporal lobe, and it's located in Loserville, and they all live in comfort zones, comfort cocoons. So they are not seeking best. They might be seeking expensive. They might want other people to give them best, but they themselves are not waking up every day saying, how can I be the best parent? How can I be the best spouse? How can I be the best educator? How can I be in my best health? That's not what's taking place on a daily basis. Insert Dr. Donna. So it is your best. And if you don't want to be your best, that's perfectly acceptable over there in Loserville. Over here, yes, comfort cocoons. And I just came up with that in the moment. Y'all know prompt to, extemporaneously. Yes. So they are in their comfort cocoons, judging and being self-righteous in their big giant ego. They sleep on an ego pillow, edging gray out in their nice little Stuckmally and Stans communities where they reside. And so we don't live over there with them. We've changed our address to the land of real leaders. We live on the edge, and we take risks, challenge ourselves, and we access our best day in and day out because we have the neural pathways to get it done. And I will say this, for years, people say, oh, Dr. Donna, you superhuman. Anybody have time for all that? You doing too much and all of that. But now that I know that it's neurological, I really am going ham on people now, because I'm like, oh, you just lazy. You just don't want to create the new neural pathways. That's all it is, because it is possible. So now you can't tell me about trauma. You can't tell me about anxiety and all these mental illnesses worked all around all that shit too. Because remember and I don't want to be remiss. So this experience-dependent plasticity, that goes for mental illnesses too. The brain is wired for ADHD. Okay, cool. We'll get your GABAs down. No problem. So you can't use any of that anymore. I got childhood trauma. You understand? I do understand. I understand you got a lazy ass brain and you don't want to work it out. You don't want to do the work to create the new neural pathways. You don't want to prune your negativity bias neural pathway. You like it because now you can make a bunch of excuses and excuse a lie all day long. So that's the whole purpose of what I am doing, is to support you in your neuropathic pursuit to become best day in and day out. So the objective is to wire your brain to use the 74 principles throughout your day, throughout your life, to become your best. So this isn't I'm going to do this 30-day challenge. This isn't some Iyanla Van Zant retreat. You're going to go out in the woods and throw some coffee somewhere and come on back and woosah, and your life is going to be better. No, okay? This is a whole choice. I read Gina Detch's book. She was the woman who started Weight Watchers, and she said it is a lifestyle shift. And so she was big, really, really, really big, and then she was small. And so this isn't a diet. This is a lifestyle. This is a personal choice that you make, that you're going to become your best. You're not going to, because people want me to fix one of their fucked up ass decisions, and I'm like, your brain is fucked up. So you're going to go back and the recidivism rate. You're going to go right back to doing, once this is good, you're going to go right back to your Stuckmally and your Stans and your comfort cocoon and be right back regular again. So this isn't something you do. This is something you become. It's not a fucking checklist over here. It's not a life hack. It's not 74 ways for you to be a bad bitch. No, that's not, that's not what this is. You'll be snatched until the holiday season, and then you're going to be unsnatched. No. That's not what it is. It is a neurological choice to wire your brain to best. And that's why it's progress, not perfection. Go slow to go fast. Momentum will come later down the line, because this is something that you have to do every single day if you want it to work. If not, you know what doesn't work, and you can go right back to that, and I'm cool with that. All right, so the 74 principles of real leadership. You have to learn them. So all of you should be on that page now. And there are 74 because listen is there twice, because you have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen way more than you talk. And if you see them, we're on the page. And so they're broken down into 8 categories, because the title of my book is Real Leaders Wear Pink. Real is an acronym and pink is an acronym. So real stands for realistic, effective, authentic, and leader-led. And then pink is for powerful, innovative, natural, and knowledgeable. So under those sections, there are the actual principles of real leadership. And so you can get the book off of Amazon. You can refer to this website every day. The book explains it a little bit better. Also, we're on YouTube right now. So we're finished with the 74 principles of real leadership. So if you want a more detailed, thorough understanding of them, just go to the 74 principles of real leadership playlist, and it will explain all of the principles of real leadership, give you examples of why people don't do it. And then that's awesome. Why people don't do it and why people do whatever that particular principle of real leadership is. And so learning the principles of real leadership is step one. Because if you don't know, the embrace change is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, and it's time for you to change. You can say, I don't like change. I don't like change. I'm good just like I am. Okay, well, you're violating one of the 74 principles of real leadership. So you have to embrace change, because embracing change means that you have a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. So that's number one. And I'm saying review them frequently. Jasmine has said that she is going to the website several times a week. If you got the book, you can refer to it. But how are you going to learn how to become personally accountable if you don't have the foundation of the principles for personal accountability? I'm not saying that you have to have them memorized, but I am saying that you have to have enough familiarity with them that you know what you're doing. So if you need to embrace change, now you know, ooh, I got to embrace change more. Let me be strategic about that. Let me create the embrace change neural pathway. So I'm going to challenge you at some point this week. You go through the principles of real leadership and see which ones you have and which ones you don't have. Because I guarantee you, everything that's not working out in your life is attached to one of the neural pathways of one of the principles of real leadership, and that pathway you haven't created yet. So if you are disorganized, get organized and stay organized. If you are cluttered, you have a life full of clutter, eliminate the clutter. If you don't know how to relax, then you need a neural pathway to teach you how to relax. So it is all of the things. So what it needs to take place is your life is not best. And now you are assessing, where are the outages to best? Why am I not best? What am I missing? Do I need technical competence, which is skill development, because I'm not best at my job? Do I need to have more of a vocabulary? Your personal lexicon sucks. Then you need to read, because reading is fundamental. Are you terrible at handling conflict? So you got all these big giant fires in your life because you don't know how to handle conflict when it occurs. Everything that's stopping you from being your best means that you do not have a neural pathway to ensure that you can execute that particular skill set in order for you to become your best. That's what I know to be true. That's why 6.8 billion adults are being personally unaccountable, because the number one principle of real leadership is to hold yourself and others personally accountable. Because without that, everything else is subject to do whatever people want to do. But when you say, I'm personally accountable, this is why I'm doing this, and then you say, if you want to be in my life, you need to be personally accountable too. Now everybody speaks the same language. We all speak personal accountability. So if you have an argument with your significant other, you can say, all right, I know we're mad. When we calm down, we're going to sit down and handle conflict when it occurs. So we're going to ask questions, and we're going to solicit feedback, and then we're going to listen, and then we're going to lead by example. And the whole goal of handle conflict when it occurs is to collaborate, which is to strive for win-win. And now you leave, and you never, ever have to have that argument again. My argument that I had with my ex-husband was, when we were dating, I used to cook every Sunday after church. He'd come over, have dinner, and then I'd leave, take him back, because a whole nother story. Anyway, take him back to his house and leave him with a plate. So I was changing my church clothes, going to take him back, and I said, oh, I made brownies. Go ahead and take some brownies with you. I take him home, I come back, and he took the center of all of the brownies and left me with the edges. So that was that was the sign. I should have known he gonna be the center of attention in this motherfucking relationship, because there's the whole center of the brownies are missing. And every time we had conflict, he put himself first. And that what left the edges are good, but not, he could have cut it down the middle. If he had to cut it down the middle and then just took that half, then that would have said that we're gonna be equal. But the fact that the center was gone, that was the argument that if we talk to each other to this day, that is the same argument that we are having again and again. We needed to handle conflict when it occurred and understood that, And then potentially, we still wouldn't be married to this day, but we probably would get along much better. So I use that as an example that when you are focused on becoming your best, you are going to handle that conflict. You are going to remove the unaccountable people from your life because you know that it's stopping you and they're hijacking your amygdala, which is cutting off access to your frontal lobe, creating cortisol and brain fog. And now you can't access all of the things that you need to navigate through your day. That's why you hold people personally accountable. So there is no amygdala hijacking and you have access to all of your cognition to operate day in and day out. So learning the 74 principles of real leadership and applying them daily is creating the neural pathways for the 74 principles of real leadership. So you do need to learn them. You actually do. It's not going to work. You can't cheat. And hey, what's the cheat codes to the 74 principles of personal accountability? There are none. And we cheat code free over here. Cheat code free. Now, number 2, and again, this is how you are going to practice and strengthen the neural pathways for personal accountability. Number 2, challenge your brain. So challenge yourself is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And in order for you to challenge your brain, you need to participate in 30-day challenges. Regina I've been working with her behind the scenes too, Kevin, Nola as well, some other people prior to now as well, to ensure that you all are getting what you need for your amazing brain to work. So you actually do, and I've had this discussion with Nola, you can't just participate in the 30-day challenges. You're not going to get it. You can't just be on the lives. You're not going to get it because you don't have the connection. So you're not creating the synaptic connection that you need to have that neural pathway. So you actually do need to participate in the challenges, and you do need to read daily because you are increasing your working memory, and you need to hold yourself and others personally accountable in addition to attending the lives. Now, I know that everybody can't attend the lives at the same time. You're on a plane, you're traveling, you have work stuff and everything else, but that's why that's why I stayed on YouTube even after TikTok went away and came back, was because the lives are here for you. Before, I had to do a lot of extra work on TikTok for you to see the lives. I had to break it up. It wasn't visible. You go to the homepage, click the live tab, is there. You go to the doggone 74 Principles of Real Leadership playlist and it's there. So I've made it very simple for you to, when you have time, to come back and get the information. So personal accountability is it's DIY. You are going to have to do it yourself to hold yourself personally accountable. I'm supplying the resources. Now you need to take the resources and apply them to your own life. So again, challenging yourself, challenging your brain. You do need to do 30-day challenges. You do need to read daily. You do need to hold everybody personally accountable, and you do need to attend or watch the lives. That's the recipe. How else are you going to get it done? Because I had this conversation with Nola, and she said, well, if you just come to class and you don't do your homework, then it's not going to stick. That's the challenges. You don't do your homework, then it's not going to stick. And how will you know? So people have tried to just do the lives. People have tried to just do the challenges. And you know what? They are not personally accountable. That means that they are not at their best. And because of how the unaccountables work, it's okay because I'm doing better than I was. Are you best? Are you best? Are you at your best? Then if you're not at your best, you're not personally accountable. You cannot be 99.99999% personally accountable. It's 100% or nothing. You're either pregnant or you're not, right? It's no, well, I'm half pregnant. No, you are or you aren't. So personal accountability means if you miss something, if you don't turn in something, if you don't do something, if you don't keep your word, you say, I didn't keep my word. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I quit, and I know quitters never win. I didn't finish what I started. So it's not a matter of getting everything perfect. It's saying I did it or I didn't do it, and here's why. That's what it actually is. So research says that you can create a new neural pathway in 8 to 10 days. Kevin is currently working to see if this is actually correct. And so I think today is day 7, he's doing 4 different iterations of 8 to 10 days. So we will know in about 33 days if in fact this is actually factually based information or if that research was incorrect. Because I also need to know how long does it actually take for the neural pathway to be created? Not strengthened, but actually created. Is it instantaneous? Is it 8 days? Is it 9 days? Is it 10 days? Is it multiple neural pathways over time? I don't have that answer currently for you, but he and I are working together to see how that process actually works, because I do need to know that. And here's the reason why. So someone asked them maybe about a month ago, you don't have no shorter challenges? It's like, fuck no, I don't have no shorter challenges. First of all, I already went from 365 days to 30 days. Why am I going, if it takes 21 days to form a habit, why would I go less than 30 days? The 21st day is when it clicks. You need those other 9 days to cement it. But with this new research, again, I have the right to turn a previous no into a current yes, just like I have the right to turn a previous yes into a current no. So what's happening here is, as I'm gathering more and more information, my objective is for you to succeed in life, for you to actually learn how to use your brain so you can become your best. So if you need 10 days, so I'm thinking about it from the other side. I'm extremely personally accountable, been that way my whole life. But for you who has a fixed mindset, atrophied brain with a stuck melee, a big stuck melee, and a very good big stand group instead of friend group, can you, and feel free for the people who've done 30-day challenges, chime in, can you jump right into a 30-day challenge? Can you? Because I've been looking for the one push-up. Now, the Army has changed basic training. It used to be 6 weeks. Now it's 10 weeks. The PT test has changed. But when I went in order for you to leave reception battalion and go to your duty, your basic training unit, as a female, you had to be able to do 1 correct push-up. And as a male, you had to do 13 push-ups. If you couldn't do that, you couldn't even get the basic training. You were stuck at reception battalion until you could. They still have the same criteria of you need this at reception before you go through, but it's not the same thing. So I'm old school. So my brain is saying, where is that 1 push-up? And initially, I thought the 1 push-up was the 30-day challenge. But the more I learn about the brain, I'm like, okay, is it a 10-day challenge? And is that going to be this one neural pathway to get the synapses, to get the firing of the neurons and make that initial connection so you can work your way up to a 30-day challenge? So for the people who have done 30-day challenges, could you have used a 10-day warm-up challenge first? That's my question to you. And if you're thinking, just ... so I know that you're there. And Nola's like, I ain't getting no warm up. I know, Nola, but we know more information now since you jumped in. You know why you had to go RL 365. You had lost your damn mind. You was going to the hospital, the grave, or through RL 365. So it takes 10 days just to understand what you're really doing. So your answer is no, Kevin? You're saying you actually need the whole 30? And while you all are answering, the other reason why I'm asking this question as well is how to incorporate the 74 principles of real leadership, make the connection to the challenges in which you do, so you can start to have those neural pathways that are being created and strengthened. So if you do real leader resources, then you have to list the 74 principles of real. Correct. You need the whole 30. Okay. Now the other thing I don't want to do, is I talked with Nola, is have people doing 30-day challenges on the 74 principles of real leadership. So do I want 74 different 30-day challenges? Because then the other thing that I thought about was, if I use categories. So let's say you want to be realistic. Then you have the realistic 30-day challenge, and all of the principles of real leadership in realistic is what will be incorporated into that challenge. So really just thinking about, number one, can you create a neural pathway in 8 to 10 days? And then number two, how best to support people learning the 74 principles of real leadership so that they can be incorporated into their day-to-day lives. So that is the question on the table. So Nola has said basically she had to jump right into our 365. And in fairness to you, there weren't 30-day challenges at that time, but Nola's getting ready to start doing the listen challenge to see how that works. And then again, I'm going to take the information from Kevin and his 4 different neural pathway creations to see how that works. So coming around third on that. So that's basically, I'll put a bow on it, and then you can answer your 2 questions for the day. So you need neuroplasticity to learn how to hold yourself personally accountable. You need it for daily personal accountability because we were not taught personal accountability. And remember, personal accountability's objective is to be the best. It's not accountable, pay your bills, pay your taxes, don't harm anybody, do no harm, none of that bullshit right there. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying go above and beyond. That's one of the principles of real leadership, to be the best and to go above and beyond. So I'm saying access your above and beyond. You were not taught how to do that. And we were not taught how to use our brain. There is no brain 101. There is no brain being taught in elementary school. There's no, oh, I'm going to my brain class in middle school. Yeah, I got to go to brain. Oh, who you got for brain? No, those discussions are not happening. Yes, so we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So the most I would do is make it sections. So you could do the real 30-day challenge. And under that, you do all of those. I'd work it. So whatever you'd be doing for those 30 days, you would bundle those principles of real leadership together. Authentic, I think, is the longest one with 16. Leader-led is 12, somewhere around there. I know those 2 are the longest. It might be flip-flopped. So the point that I'm making is this has to occur because you can't half-ass personal accountability. It's not going to work. Be ye hot or cold. Okay? Lukewarm will never do. You can't serve 2 entities. You can't be unaccountable and personally accountable at the same time. It will not work out for you. You can't cheat this system at all. Plus, I will wear your ass out if you try to cheat. You will quit before I let you water down personal accountability. This shit is 200% proof moonshine. It will it will put hair on your chest. Yeah, it is the shiz night, but it will not be watered down for thee. Not happening. Wow. See, and you would think I could be an MC. Oh, and there you go. See, wow. Okay. Anyway, I always want to be a rapper. No, not at all. So that's it in a nutshell, is that you need neurogenesis, which is the creation of new neurons firing off. And then you need those neurons to start connecting and to process those cells to turn into synapses that creates the neural pathway for you in order for you to start using these principles of real leadership so that you can become your best. My 2 questions for you today are, what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? And now I will have my first morsel of food this morning. And I'm 3.5 hours in. I do not recommend that. I did have my water though, so my brain is hydrated. And then even with that number, Kevin, while you're typing, now you see why people don't have 74 of anything. But additionally, they teach you 1 or 2 things because that's simpler for them. Kevin, today I learned that the brain isn't fixed. Okay, Lola said, I have to know what I'm getting myself into, find out what the 74 principles are, how to use them by listening and reading. It was helped me understand the challenge. Yes, I understand that. Nola said, I learned about synapses being a communication process, a communication brain process. Yeah, that's why, because I was pissed as hell. I was like, why the fuck I gotta learn physics? I'm just trying to learn about the brain. And then all of the electricness and the movements and the inputs and outputs and all of that. That's why I was like, all right, bet. And speaking of that, yesterday I spent 4.5 hours in my course yesterday. And took my first test, my second test, for the test for that module, and my first test results was 54.54%. What happened was I got one whole entire question wrong, and then on the other questions you have to pick multiple answers. I didn't pick all the multiple answers, and so I got marked down from that. So I went back and did some more work, came back, got an 81.81%, and now I'm moving on to the next module and still need to research 2 answers on 2 different questions. Nola said, I learned about myself because I had prior real leadership. I had to start with RL365. Yes, and that's all that was available. So this is my kinder, gentler side, ladies and gentlemen, because you used to only have RL365, RL Advanced, and RL Beyond. All 3 were 365 days. You could be on day 270, miss turning some shit in and have to start over. Most people couldn't make it through the first 90 days. It was all video challenges. And yeah, so it was much more challenging. But now that I understand the brain more, I am reviving things. That's how you ended up with the 30-day challenge. Like I said, yes and no challenge was the first 30-day challenge, and it was a 90% failure rate. But I have revived that so that it is now the PA challenge. So yeah, I have no issue with testing something, seeing that it doesn't work, and saying, yeah, that didn't work, and being transparent about it. And in that same regard, I have no issue with keeping something that actually does work and upgrading it. That's why I have over 11,000 videos. Okay. And then anyone else, what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? Because that's not the right amount of answers for the right amount of people that are here. And it's okay. I will say this. It is okay to be afraid to do this. And quite honestly, it would feel foreign if you weren't, because your brain is trying to process something that isn't. The brain looks for somatic markers to attach it to things that are familiar. And when it's not something familiar, the amygdala go, uh-oh, wait a minute, this has changed. I got to be afraid of this. What the hell is this? What the hell? What the heliante? What the heliberry? Like, what is this? Because it's looking for it. The brain is a creature of habit, and it does not necessarily want to change on its own. And so I'm saying do these things that you have no familiarity with whatsoever. And that's why I'm saying, but your brain has already been doing this. You were in kindergarten, and now you're not. You didn't know how to do something, and now you do. So the brain knows how to do what I'm saying. It just doesn't know how to do this thing that I'm saying do. But it is familiar with not knowing how to do something, experiencing cognitive overload, developing the neural pathways to get it done, and now you just do it, and now it becomes part of the basal ganglia, where it's just memory. You just grab it from the hippocampus and say, hey, here you go, I know how to do that. If you think about complicated things that you didn't know how to do, and now you do, you already went through that process. You already wired your brain to do those things that you currently know how to do. I am saying now it's on purpose, and it's for everything that you do. So not I know how to drive, but I know how to use my brain in every situation. Everything that I do, I am now doing it on purpose, and not because an external stimulus came and said, you need to learn how to drive. You need to learn a skill. You need to get a job. You need to have a house. But you or yourself are saying, I need this skill. I need this. I need to be able to handle conflict when it occurs. I need to stop being a doormat and start holding people personally accountable. So you're creating the actual synaptic connection instead of someone else telling you you need to create this connection. Kevin, myself, my life has changed greatly since the application of the 74 principles. They work. Yes, sir, I agree with you. They do work. And Nola, you and Nola's vocabulary, I tell you, y'all, I think it's because of the only child thing. You all definitely behaviors mirror each other a lot. For you to never have met each other, the age gap, the 29 and a half year age gap is quite interesting. Lola, I need to learn how to rewire to start learning new things. I had been out of touch, out of my brain. I realized that was my own doing and what I already knew. Yes, ma'am. So what happens is, again, as I mentioned, that working memory stops working at 35, starts to stop working, and by 65, it's not there anymore. So your ability to take in new information and process it and put it in the hippocampus for later use, that working, I'm going to take this information, solve this problem, take this information, store it for later, starts to deteriorate. So anybody over the age of 35, if you're like, man, I used to learn all the time, I ain't learned nothing new yet, it's because it's happening neurologically and it's just something that just takes place. The brain starts to deteriorate unless you do something different. And so that is also the mission, is that you don't sit somewhere, be 52 years old and can't figure shit out because you haven't created the neural pathways to be technically competent. Reading is fundamental. Reading gives you new information every single day that you didn't have prior to the day. So as Carl Munger said, go to sleep wiser than when you woke up this morning. That's the objective. That's why you read. ABLing is always be learning. So the objective again is, Kevin Hook, Dr. Donna told me, Kevin, stop trying to be right. That was the moment I stopped being scared in these challenges. I forgot about that. Okay, cool. Now I remember that you're saying that. Stop trying to be right. Yeah, this is not something, and thank you for that, Kevin, because this isn't a test. This is not a test. So this isn't something that you pass or fail at. So I'm saying don't do this, become this. And that's different. So doing something is task oriented. Becoming something is who you are day in and day out. So you become a real leader. You don't do real leadership. So it's not a task. Oh, let me do my listening today. No, because I am a real leader, I listen and communicate effectively. It's because of who I am that I'm doing these things. It's not, I am these things and I do these things because of who I am, not this is just something I do. And it's difficult to understand too, because I don't take this leadership wig, this real leadership wig on and off. It's not something that I put in a closet somewhere. If you meet me in person, I am this way 100% of the time, 365 days out the year, all the time. I'm not like, oh shit, I ain't no real leader. I ain't about to do this shit right here. I got my money, woo woo woo, and I'm something else, because you have been trained that you are not what you do. And so you might be a flight attendant, and then you could really want to be a skydiver or something like that. So this isn't a profession. People do religions and everything else. And I'm saying, no, you have to become a real leader if you're going to become your best. You cannot get to best without the 74 principles of real leadership. It is 1000% on a scale of 1 to 2 impossible to do. And that's what I can't talk to her about the thought leaders anymore, or the neuroscientists that are now influencers, because they have you thinking if you just eat berries and chocolate, your brain will function. If you just do this BDNF hack and get enough sleep, your brain is going to function. And so you do it, and now you're feeling like, well, why the fuck this shit ain't working? And it's because you didn't create the actual neural pathway. You actually don't have it in the basal ganglia. It's not there for you to access readily. You're not pulling it from the hippocampus. You're not having it right there readily available in the executive function of your brain. You don't have it. So you can't. So if you don't become a real leader, you are not going to be personally accountable, and you're not going to hold people personally accountable. You're going to let it go. It wasn't that big of a deal. It don't matter. I'm not going to do that. That's okay. I'll let it go this time. I'll let you go. No. Unless you tell, y'all have seen it on lives. I've told people I'm giving you grace, but I could block your ass. So in those instances, I'm still recognizing that I'm being personally accountable and I'm allowing something to take place. I'm not just letting that shit go. That's not going to happen. Nobody on this live has ever came and acted a fool, and I haven't addressed it and then told y'all why I did what I did, because that's personal accountability. So it is something that you become, and you independent. You don't have to stop practicing whatever your religion is to become a real leader. You don't have, oh no, it's only heterosexual people over here. No, it's only women going through perimenopause. No, do you have a brain? Are you 18 and above? Then you can become a real leader. You want to be personally accountable to be your best bet? You can become a real leader. Unlimited capability. Unlimited. There is no numbers. Well, it is 6.8 billion adults. That's the limitations until it becomes more adults in the world. But really, as people are becoming adults, people are dying. So that number really pretty much is the same. And then Lola said, I learned that the principle that I was working until they weren't, I was able to learn more and better. Yes, I got it. That's correct. And so in summary, because we got to get out of here, and I've held you long enough captive. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Is that the principles of real leadership will change your life. You don't currently have a playbook for your day-to-day life. You don't. So if you get into an argument with somebody today, they're going to say, I'm right. You're going to say you're right. And y'all going to leave and be mad. But when you have two people looking and using and implementing the 74 principles of real leadership, you can say, okay, let me listen to what you're saying. Let me solicit some feedback from you. Let me ask some questions of you. And now we can handle this conflict and we can move forward. So unaccountable people like that there isn't a playbook for adult life, because now they can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want, and there is no consequences or repercussions for their antics, for their unaccountability. And that's why we don't have best in the world. But when you use the 74 principles of real leadership, now you can say, here is the procedure for that. Inspect what you expect. Remember, we decided that everybody was going to clean the kitchen before we go to sleep. Your day to do the dishes is Wednesday. Your day to do the dishes is Thursday. And now we look on the calendar. The dishes is Friday. Kevin, it was your turn to do the dishes. You didn't do the dishes. We're not getting into an argument, because we already agree. Inspect what you expect. We expect Kevin to wash the dishes on Friday. It's Friday. Kevin, it's your turn to wash the dishes. Now, if your schedule changes, we sit back down, we renegotiate the strategy, and so there should be no problem. But if you don't have that, then you could just argue, well, last Thursday was your day, and didn't nobody say nothing to you when you didn't wash the dishes? Well, shit, 2 Wednesdays ago, you didn't wash the dishes. Now you got this whole conflict that wasn't necessary because you didn't have strategies in place. So that's how this works. Lola, you said, thanks for teaching me so much. Appreciate it. I really have changed. You have, Lola, because you over here on LinkedIn and everywhere else, liking things, watching things, commenting. So yes, ma'am. And then Jessica says, well, I learned that it's difficult talking to someone who isn't accountable, and I refuse to allow them to talk to me sideways because I made a comment about them throwing away my corn skewers. I understand that. And so one of the 74 principles of real leadership is to treat people with dignity and respect. So that's why you hold people personally accountable, and you cannot get a functional response from a dysfunctional person, which is why I severed the relationship with my immediate family, because when somebody has a fixed mindset and they're hell bent on being unaccountable, you are never going to enter into a functioning, high functioning relationship with them. It's not going to work. And you are always, because their objective is to hijack your amygdala, which is what's happening with your corn skewers, fight, flight, freeze, or appease. That is going to continue to take place because the brain is hardwired for negativity bias. And until each individual person makes the choice to prune that neural pathway, which is the strongest one in the brain, you are not going to, it's never going to work at all. That's why you have infighting, the War of the Roses, the Hatfields and McCoys. It's just going to keep going and going and going because of hijacked amygdalas, which is shutting off all access to your logic, your reasoning, and everything else. So thank you very much today for your comments, for your participation and understanding. I'm deciding if we're doing Wired Wednesday or not tomorrow, if we're going to go straight into neuromobility. I will have an answer for you by the time you wake up tomorrow. It will be there. You will know which one it is when you click on the live, but I'm going, because I don't know if I want to skip at this point. Wired Wednesday before was to break up, having to do 74 principles, 74 principles, 74 principles. But now, because we're in the show me phase, I believe that we just need to go straight into working memory and neuropability and keep this train going just to get the momentum going on the show me portion of the 74 Principles of Real Leadership. So review the 74 Principles of Real Leadership daily if it's possible and it fits into your schedule. Just screenshot or put it on your phone, bookmark it. However, so you can start looking at them and assessing which ones apply and the ones that are in particular stopping you from becoming your best. The ones that are keeping you at your best, you got them. But the other ones are the ones that's stopping you from becoming your best. So I do appreciate you taking the time for yourself today to understand how this amazing brain works and why neuroplasticity matters and the connection that it has to the 74 Principles of Real Leadership. So as Kevin said, I said, you don't have to do this right. It's not a matter of doing it right. It's becoming a real leader so you can become your best. That's what the goal is. And it doesn't take away from anything else. No, you don't have to have a minimalistic lifestyle. No, you don't got to start wearing synthetic wigs. No, you don't have to start saying, motherfucker, I wish you would. No, you actually get to be yourself because this is where your personality resides. So you get to be the best you that you can be, and you ain't never, ever got to be me. So my objective, yes, Lola, yes, ma'am, I concur. So my objective is to not create some stands and some fans and some Dr. Donna-ites and all of that. No, there is no fandemonia, hero worshiping, or idolization over here. It's just real leadership. That's all it is. So you will not be getting a t-shirt with my face on it. No, you will not be like, bitch, we work with Dr. Donna. You won't. None of that is what's going to take place. Personal accountability does not have a face. Okay? You want to go buy a brain t-shirt? I got this off Amazon. Knock yourself one out. Okay? It has nothing to stop you from, you want to listen to jazz, Kevin, he makes bourbon, I think, and wine and stuff. I'm not telling you to stop doing those things. I'm saying be the best. Make the best bourbon and wine that you can make. Make the best wall, house, whatever, cake, whatever you do, you're just going to be the best at it. So we are not bow down, bend the knee, worshiping Dr. Donna. No, absolutely. You give your praise and worship to a higher power that is not down here with the rest of us. It's your mama's hair. That's whose hair it is. It's your mama's hair. That's who it is. Don't. Matter of fact, get the hell out of here. Always got some unaccountable person trying to stop the positive energy. Think positively is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. There's always one who listened and got uncomfortable, so now they have to do something imbecilic because they just can't. The brain can't process positivity when you are an unaccountable person. It won't do it. It has to invoke some type of negativity so it can get that dopamine boost and feel good about being negative. So yeah. Anyway, you all did a phenomenal job this morning, and go off and have conversations about neuroplasticity and neurogenesis just to change the trajectory of a conversation. Like, hey, you ever heard of neuroplasticity? Oh, well, let me tell you about it. And now it's going to give people something else to talk about. Yes, you do need to change to be the best. And that's the objective. Be your best. Okay? Day in and day out. So God willing, higher power, and the universe, I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, safe space, different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a terrific Tuesday. Adios.